Oh, great. Join with video. Okay. Hi. Okay, so it looks like I can share the screen. Host disabled participant from sharing screen.
That's okay. So I'll make you the host.
Okay.
Now you should be able to share.
Okay, let's see. Isn't this better than getting like frantic? Host disabled participant from sharing screen.
Okay, that's okay.
It still doesn't let me.
Oh, make host. Okay.
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 I am the host now. Okay, great.
Perfect.
I'm going to leave this up so that I don't close out and as people join. So,
Yeah.
I mean, because now we're just 30 minutes away.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Now what I want to do, I want to see if you can see what I am doing. Okay. Share. You see my desktop. I'm going to get out of that. And I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to get out of this. And now you should see my, yeah, you see my desktop. So now I'm going to go in here and open up. So you're seeing, and you're seeing exactly what I want you to be seeing. Okay. Yay.
Perfect.
Now, I have to make sure that I can scroll through. Okay.
So far, so good.
Okay. See my quote?
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like everything is good. Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. I've got it open and we're running. You're the best. And then is it record? Will it record?
Yeah. So right now it's recording.
Well, let's stop that right now.
Okay.
Because you know.
Hold on.
But then unless you can, you are screen sharing. Okay.
Stop sharing for a second.
Stop sharing. Okay.
Oh, okay. So since it made you the host, then it gave you like the pause
Okay.
and
This because what we do today is going to be available for later. So
what's next for Patrick Mahomes? Put this one behind him. The Kansas City
oh gosh, somebody's got their
NFL career at the worst possible time in Super Bowl 55. Mahomes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Hi, Keisha Welch. All right. Okay. You know what? Let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do is we are going to go over what it takes to get the winning offer. How many of you, just by show of hands, have been out there showing property, put in an offer? Some of you are so extremely new, you haven't been there yet, but have put an offer in and it didn't get accepted. Did you know why it didn't get accepted? I see Wendy nodding her head.
Yes, I do know why. We could not go in with all cash. We did go in with an escalation clause. However, the house went 20,000 over list and there were over 11 offers. And I think not being a cash offer, we just weren't really in the running, although our offer was very strong, I felt.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to start. I'm going to go ahead and share. So thank you for sharing that with me, because I'm going to potentially dispel that belief that you missed out because it wasn't cash. So can everyone see the screen, how to win an offer?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. So here's why I'm doing this. I don't list properties or sell properties much anymore. I make an exception. I will do for a year. I do not market myself. It is just shrimp. I can't even talk. You can tell I'm tired. It is simply because they are very close friends, and they have asked me to do it. The other reason I do it is because that way I understand what you all are faced with. I understand how to make command work. I understand a lot of things that if I didn't do this once in a while, I would be out of the pic. I just wouldn't be relevant. Does that make sense? So this picture you see is currently in FMLS. It was a dear friend of mine. I said, yes, I'll list her little property. And it went live on Thursday, and we had to cut off the showings by Sunday at 1 o'clock. We had completely filled every slot for an appointment, which was 76 slots from Thursday to Sunday at 1.
Wow.
So we're going to talk about that more, but I was also last night with the seller going over 29 offers. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I saw and where things could have improved so that you are not one of the rejects, or at least you're in the running. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to start, and I'm going to go over some information, and then we'll have the opportunity to talk about things, and I want to show you things that are important. But for some of you, you've done this before. For some of you, it's going to be a great refresher. For some of you, this is all new. So I would pay careful attention to what I'm telling you. It is not the only thing. This is my opinion, or this is what I see seems to work. It doesn't mean that I've covered everything. But when you're working with the buyers, right now, it's very frustrating for the buyers. Wouldn't you say? They know they're 1 in a million out there. Everybody, I mean, we had people standing in line to get in this little house over the weekend. My phone was blowing up. My phone was blowing up with, can you get me in? I have a bona fide buyer. So it's really important to tell your client that this is not for the weak at heart. That is not the way I would necessarily put it. I would give them real information. How many of you know what Chart Masters is?
Never heard of it.
Okay, that's okay. You're just joining. If you haven't heard of it, hear of it. Chart Masters is in our intranet, and Kimberly can show you how to get there. We go into our office, and then there are documents that are there. Chartmaster tells you what's going on in the marketplace. It is an amazing tool before you have a conversation with a buyer. We're only talking about buyers today. To know what the market is. Some of your buyers will say, because they are uneducated about market conditions, it's not that they're uneducated, they just don't understand market conditions, because we haven't ever had much like this ever. So you're going to tell them when they say, I'd like to get a deal, then you have to advise them there are no real deals out here right now because it's a seller's market. And you will learn that it's interesting. I looked at Chartmasters, and Chartmasters showed that there was less than 1 month inventory in certain price points. Now, if they've got a $2 million budget, you got a little bit more leeway here. But if it's affordable housing, and I always deem affordable housing, that's just my personal, at about 500,000 or less, then you're going to have quite, if it's priced correctly and the condition is good, you're going to have a huge demand. So Chartmasters will help them get real. How many, is anybody, and you can speak up, has anybody been working with a client and said, I want a deal, or I want a foreclosure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then what I
told-
would do, thank you for sharing that, because a lot of them do, is that you go, okay, The chart masters can show you, and you need to learn it because we're not teaching it today, but it can show you by putting the area in that they're interested in. If there's been foreclosures or short sales. And for East Cobb, if you're looking at East Cobb, it's less than 1% and sometimes nothing. So I want you as an agent to use your time wisely and use their time wisely. So don't be afraid to tell them what the market is. I mean, they're going to be much happier than if you take them down a path that they can't, that doesn't exist. Does that make sense to you all?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a thorough buyer consultation before you get started and ask them what their time frame is. If they say that they've got to be out of their apartment in 4 months, 5 months, don't dilly dally. Tell them that now is the time to be looking, because if they say I've got to be out in 2 weeks or less than 30 days, probably isn't going to happen. So you want to have that conversation. And do they have their money ready to go? I mean, you don't ask that. I was in mortgage banking and I know how to ask that, but you make sure that you get them pre-qualified or pre-approved. And we're going to talk about that. So you just need to know what the buyer needs are before you get started. Are they realistic? So, somebody's got something going that they need to mute, please. Okay, financing makes a difference. If you do not have a really good lender, now is the time to get it before you start going out there. You'll have your clients say, oh, I did something online. Ooh, that makes me horrors of horrors when I'm the listing agent. There is a difference between a mortgage banker and a mortgage broker. Do you all know that? A mortgage broker is a third party. They can't approve the loan. So if you get something from, I'm going to use one of Jim's, Smellmore Mortgage Lending, and they are a broker, they can't give you a pre-approval letter unless it came from a Wells Fargo or a BB&T. They're just the middleman. They are just then guessing. So make sure that you work with someone that can give you an approval, run them through underwriting, because why would it matter to you whether or not it works or not? Why does it matter?
You're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. You are wasting your time. And then you need to understand the differences between conventional FHA and VA. This is not a finance class, but I can tell you that FHA and VA, they're great in this market. They are more difficult to get approved because FHA and VA, as far as the appraisal is concerned, there is no time limitation on those. And so unconventional, when you see a contract, when you're preparing a contract, it will say how many days to get financing, how many days to get an appraisal. FHA and VA can run to the bidder end. Do you think that if there's 29 offers that the seller may want to take that risk of having that appraisal issue looming throughout the entire transaction? Maybe not. I can't speak for all sellers. But the other thing is on FHA and VA, once that appraisal is done, it is tied to that property. So if it came in low, it has now, if they had a backup offer for an FHA, now they've got a problem. So it's not everybody can go conventional. I get it. But if they can, gives them an advantage of getting that contract. That's one of many things, but I'm just throwing out. And then we have a pre-approval letter. What does anybody know what the difference of pre-approval and pre-qualify is?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me.
Pre-approval means that they've got some sort of a, documentation from the lender that says this client is approved for a mortgage in this amount.
Okay. And
Pre-qualify means that they meet the, sort of the upfront qualifications in terms of their debt to income ratio and credit score and all that sort of stuff.
mhm,
But it's not binding in any way.
correct. Read what they give you carefully, because yesterday when I had to go through 29 contracts, the ones that had no letter, guess where they went? To the bottom of the pile.
Mhm.
Not that they were gone, but they were at the bottom. And then pre-approval trumped pre-qualification.
Mhm.
So what was interesting is the offer that was taken gave, although it was a 97% conventional, so we'll talk about that, they had 0 days for financing. What did that tell the listing agent? What did that tell me?
Cash.
Nope, because we were doing
Manufacturing?
97%
Okay.
conventional.
But they were confident that they would be approved through underwriting, so they didn't need to have that contingency in the contract.
Correct, because they've already done it subject to finding a property.
Okay. Oh,
So we just took out a question.
right.
So, okay, so any questions?
I have a question, Michelle.
Yeah, Bo.
So if you're a buyer and you offer above the asking price to try to look competitive to the seller,
Mhm.
like let's say you've been pre-approved up to 350, and then there's a house that's 325 and you offer 350 to try to make your offer look better.
Mhm.
And then the appraisal comes back and it says this house is only worth 325.
Yeah.
Your lender is not gonna loan you 350, correct? Because the appraisal said it's 325. Even though you were pre-approved,
Correct.
they're saying it's not worth that much. Is that right?
Correct. That is
Okay.
correct. It is,
Okay.
for the lending standpoint, it is the sales price or the appraised value, whichever is less.
Gotcha.
So, you know what? I would tell you, I mean, if you go, hey, I have a great idea, and thank you for bringing that up. We'll kind of visit it again, but I have a great idea. Let's offer 250, 350, 350, because you're qualified for that. You know what? If they really want to sell it and the appraisal comes in at 2 or 325, they'll probably lower it. Maybe not. So when we were looking at 29 offers yesterday, some of them got stupid, quite frankly. And it told me that they weren't really paying attention to the comps, and they were just trying to win based on price. And the winning person, now this is the way I do business. So keep in mind, this doesn't mean that everybody does it, but price got silly. We knew we would never appraise, in this case, at 255. I knew it. So could it jeopardize the transaction? Yes, it could. So again, these are things you kind of start to learn.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking that. Okay, continue. Prepare your client.
Hey, Michelle,
Yes.
can I jump in and ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Having to do with your last point. Let's just say that somebody offers, 300,000 for a house that's not going to appraise above 275 in terms of mortgage. If they put down enough cash so that the amount that's borrowed is 275 or less, then that's okay, right?
Yeah, let's pause that one. Write that question down. That's a really good one,
Okay.
because we're going to cover that.
Okay.
Okay, so keep me at task. If I look like I'm not answering it, you bring that back up, but we will, because all we're doing right now is preparing the client. So we'll keep it at that. If you do not use command, you better have some way to be prepared. What I would suggest, and I'm going to teach the way I know how to, is I use command. and I learned command. You go ahead and create an opportunity. That means you have your person in command and you have everything set up because you've done a buyer consultation. Absolutely do not wait until your hair is on fire on Friday afternoon. You found a property and think you're going to get this achieved. Because if you don't know how to do it, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. Fair enough? So what I would do, here's what I would do, and here's what I did in the past, is I had the documents ready to go in DocuSign. I already had them pulled up. So what I've got the exclusive buyer broker agreement done. It's already there. I have the purchase and sales agreement done as much as I can because I can't put property address or sales price at that point. I can't put any specific terms, but I can have the base of that contract ready to go. I know because I've had a consultation with them that they're going to do conventional. So I would pull in a conventional financing exhibit and have it ready to go. So I'd also put, excuse me, pull in the pre-approval letter and have it ready to go. So what it looks like is if you find that ideal property or your client does, you're already ready to go. And by doing so, you can complete potentially a contract in 10 minutes. That's where I'm at. I can usually go through it in about 10 minutes. And the first one I ever did, it took 3.5 hours and I was crying. So it really, that first one. So if you've already, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready at all to do it. So I speak from experience. I'm not just speaking in theory. Any questions on that?
So Michelle, you can, and I think this is what you just said, but I just want to make sure.
Uh-huh.
When you're going through, you can kind of, as you're going through the process, get all those documents in command.
Absolutely.
And then it's time to write the offer, compile them all together, write the offer and send it.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Because you've already got them housed, because you know that they don't have a house to sell. So you don't need that form. You know that they're going to do conventional. So you've got it ready. Just have everything ready. And this will create less stress for you because it is, when you're out there being competitive, you got to be ready to go. And so we'll talk more about that in just a second. How do you find the property? I mean, that's the big thing. When I was doing it, I watched FMLS throughout the day, because throughout the day, properties come on. So if you don't know how to do this, take an FMLS class, or you program so that if you're looking in area 83 between 300 and 350,000 and they need a basement, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, whatever it may be, you can check it every few hours or every so often to see if something new is coming up. So you're not recreating the wheel over and over again. Now, once you get multiple clients, it gets a little bit more tricky. But if I'm working with someone looking at $1.2 million, I'm not as concerned about watching that, although I would be, as I am concerned about 500,000 or less. Because here's what happened. I had the listing go live on Thursday. This recently. I did a coming soon. Watch coming soon. If you're not watching that, you're missing the boat, because that way it kind of puts you at the front of the line to get ready to run. And then I made this little listing go live by 5 in the morning. I was already getting appointment requests. So for those of you that think that real estate is real flexible right now and that you can stay in your pajamas till 10:30 and eat your bonbons, not so good, because those 5, I was shocked. My phone phone was beeping at 5 a.m. in the morning. So what I found people doing is, I believe that they made appointments just to grab something, because that was the key, and then checked with their clients, because I had some cancellations. So remember we talked about, being prepared and having your consultation. One of the things that I think that you need to do is have that conversation with, your client, and say, what days could you go and look at properties? We have to run. We got our tennis shoes on. What time? So that you're able to fulfill, because quite frankly, by 9 o'clock that night, now that was Thursday, this past Thursday, all appointments were filled. All were filled, and the only way people got in was to have a cancellation. Now, read the FMLS description I put in there. Must have an appointment due to COVID, and no double bookings, and no stop-bys. Because there were agents that just simply drove by and said, we'll get in. We'll just wait till one leaves and pop in there. Guess what? I made it very clear. And again, this is just me, but I'm just giving you ideas that I would not accept a contract if they felt that they were so inclined to just jump ahead of somebody because that next person wasn't there. Maybe other agents don't look at that. I do. But again, now you kind of know, if you're the first thing, if you hit that listing when it's just coming on, any coming soons will turn at midnight. They just automatically do, whatever day they're going to go live. The rest of them could come up throughout the day. Questions on that? Okay, we're going to keep moving.
Michelle,
Yes.
can you repeat what you just said? That last sentence about timing?
Timing. Well, if they are coming soon, the system automatically puts them into an active status on the day that they're going to go live. I didn't have to get up at midnight or 12:01 and turn my listing to in FMLS or MLS to active. It automatically did it. That's why I was getting appointments at 5 in the morning.
So you
Now,
entered that information in that you wanted it to go live at 5 a.m. on Thursday?
no, mine went live at 12:01 or at 12 midnight. The system automatically recognizes it the day it's going to go live. That only works on coming soon. So if you're watching a coming soon, no, and if it doesn't, I mean, again, you might want to talk to the agent ahead of time. But has anybody experienced that? Because it looks, we've got 30 people on here, so I know we've got to have some experts. Has anybody been really good at watching how to jump in there yet? Okay, well, you will be after this. Okay.
No, a lot of my appointments, I send a request around 2 a.m. though.
Oh, now, honestly, if my phone is going off at 2 a.m., I'm not liking you. So, but
they respond by 9.
Okay, but you know what? They may just, if they don't have it hooked to their phone, I made the big mistake of hooking it to my phone. But that does show, Grace, that you are on the ball. So what I just said, don't worry about me, but it shows you're up there, you're watching. So that's okay. What I would tell you to do is, I'm going to jump down to the bottom real quick, and then we'll look at it. Look at the hit counter. How many of you know what a hit counter is? Okay, let me show you something here. Let me go on my desktop and bear with me. Let me show you this. Can you all see this? The hit FMLS? Okay, here is my little listing. It's now pending, but look at how many people, how many clients portals it went into. 2,031. How many client views? 850. How many client favorites? 111. How many client possibilities? 30. You get it. I mean, we had 43 rejected, but who cares if we had 2,031. So the reason I tell you to look at that is look at that with your client and say, hey, this looks like a really popular property. I'm excited we got an appointment. We need to be prepared if this is something you're interested in to run. Does that make sense to you all?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So let's close that out. A lot of people don't know about the hit counter. I learned about it early, and I learned about it when I had listings too, to kind of watch what was happening, what to expect.
Mr. Byers, can you show us how to do that again, please?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't show you how to do it. It was in thank you for asking. It was in FMLS. And what I would tell you to do is to go into FMLS under the knowledge base and search up hit counter. You can call me later, and if we need to have a class, we may talk about it. We can do that too, but it's simply when you've pulled up the listing, there's an option to go into hit counter. So if we can visit that later, would that be okay? Yeah, I want you to know where it's at. So afterwards, we'll address that. Okay. All right. What I would tell you is read the listing and understand how the appointment is made. Some of them say showing time only. It drove me nuts this weekend because all the appointments were taken and people were saying showing time is broken. It's showing that there's no appointments. Well, if you looked at hit counter, that would probably be a really good thing to understand. And I also put on that all appointments are taken. And that the only way to get them is cancellation. So we'll talk more about that, but not all listings are this crazy. This was a crazy one. So just know what they're asking you to do. If they say asking to text, how many of you, when you text someone, fail to put your name in Keller Williams? How many? Nobody's going to admit to that. Okay, so just ask a question nobody's going to admit to. But here's what I would tell you. If you were texting someone, if I were texting, say, Grace, I see you have a listing at 162 Ridgewood Drive, says, please text, I'd like an appointment, what's available or whatever. Michelle Byers, Keller Williams, Atlanta North. Because if I don't put Michelle Byers, Keller Williams, Atlanta North, she doesn't even know who I am because I know I'm not programmed in her phone. Does that help make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And you should be doing that all the time for any type of transaction, unless somebody has you programmed. We don't know, we don't know who it is coming in. So that's where I said, ask me why. Why? Because I got so crazy with requests that if they didn't put it in, it was, I could have spent all night returning text. Go ahead. If you're showing property, you should be printing the FMLS listings. So if you're going to go show 5, have 5 printed up. I always printed up 5 for myself and 5 to give to my client. That is because one of the things you're going to learn is if the documents, when you go into FMLS, such as the seller disclosure, the lead-based paint exhibit, the CAD, the community association disclosure, are in FMLS. Pay attention to what I'm going to say here. If it says the house was built before 1978, for you seasoned agents, you already know the answer, but what has to happen if it was built before 1978?
Lead-based paint exhibit.
Yeah.
Exactly. The law states, not Keller Williams, the law states that a contract cannot go binding until the lead-based paint exhibit has been presented. So if you don't see it in FMLS, and you know it was built before 1978, you better reach out and say, I will be showing your property. Could you please send me the lead-based paint disclosure along with the seller disclosure? The conversation will be different when we do what it does to get ready for a listing, but that is the law. Questions on that?
Yes, Michelle, what happens with those that say no disclosure, sold as is?
Well, I mean, if it was built before 1978, guess what? They don't get to say no disclosure. I mean, the law says you must, and they may say they have no knowledge, but if it was somebody that lived in the property, does that create a red flag?
Yes.
If it was a flipper who just tore the walls out, does that create a red flag? No. No? Did somebody say no? Well, somebody needs to mute again. Thanks for listening to your blender.
Michelle, if they
yeah.
flip the house, then they've been in the house and torn walls or something.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
excuse me.
Exactly. Thank you, Regina. So anyway, again, proceed with caution. You are going to be not only the trusted advisor, but you are going to question, and there's going to be little red flags that come up. But right now we're just talking about what documents should be at FMLS. And Grace, thank you for asking if they're not. The only thing they can't avoid is the lead paint disclosure, period, end of discussion. Can't do it. Okay. All right.
Thank
you. You're welcome. Here's my quote for the morning. You can write it down or you can remember it. Never, never go on a listing, go to a listing without an appointment. The only exception is that when it says vacant, go and show, no appointment needed. That is the only time, because if you think you're going to be tricky and jump in between, it might work some of the time, but guess what? If you went in that house without an appointment, what's that considered?
Trespassing.
Thank you. That's easy enough. Easy enough. So enough said there. Okay, let's pretend you found that house, or your client has found the house and you are ready to go. When your client selects a home for an offer, what is the first thing? Somebody read the first line for me.
Contact the agent and let them know your client is interested in making an offer.
Thank you. Let them know that it's coming, because that way they know to expect it. Because what if they're going to meet with the seller in an hour and a half and now they know a new one's coming? Could that change, that they'll kind of delay and wait for you? Wouldn't you hate to have missed out because they go, oh gosh, we're going to meet in an hour and a half. You need to get it in sooner. Okay. Does that? Then ask the listing agent if the seller has any special needs. I can't tell you how many people did reach out to me, which my seller appreciated. Is the closing date important? Are there acceptable types or unacceptable types of financing? There, you can just have a conversation. You just say, we love, my client loved your listing. Are there any special needs that would help the seller in making a decision? Is the closing date important? Anything that you think of. And why ask, are there any offers at this time? Why would you do that?
So you can know how competitive to be.
Exactly. I mean, in the very beginning of getting those contracts the other day, I said, yes, there are more than one offer. I was pretty vague about it. When I got to over 20 offers, I said, yes, we've had 20 offers and there's some more coming, so that if somebody was going to think that they were going to lowball, I didn't waste their time and they didn't waste our time. So they may or may not tell you that, but ask. And just the other thing is, so when will a decision be made? We just talked about that. So those are important questions to ask. And can you hold their feet to the fire on any of this? No, but it does create a sense of urgency for your buyer. I've heard buyers go, well, you know what? We're going to think about it over the weekend and then we'll get back with you on Monday. Would that work?
Not now.
Maybe, maybe not.
Probably not.
Probably not. So, okay, so you can share this with it. And this one you're going to laugh at, and that's okay. Don't be a drama king or queen and a know-it-all, and don't challenge the price. Yuck. Don't be a drama king or queen. What I mean by that is, you know what, we have an appointment at 2, and now, now I've got to run to the grocery store because I have company coming. Could we change? Who cares? Honestly, who cares? So just keep it businesslike, because I can promise you that listing agent has, if it's a popular property, has heard it all. Have you all heard any crazy things? Okay. Well, then I've had people going that they want to be a know-it-all, and they'll go, you know what? How'd you come up with this price? I just don't see this price. I don't think that you're priced correctly. Now, if your client likes it, then you've just kind of set a bad, you've gone in with kind of a bad taste in the listing agent's mouth. You're questioning what their knowledge is. Right now, the market is driving prices. And so what looks to be kind of crazy might not be. So I would just simply, if they like it, if it didn't appraise and they had an appraisal contingency in it, okay. Now, if it's something that's overpriced and it has no hits on the hit counter or very little, don't you know that that's kind of overpriced? So it may give you, or if it's been on the market for 30 days and you ask the seller, have you had any offers? And they say, no, not yet. We've just lowered the price. There's lots of indications if you know to ask questions. And then I tell you, please be pleasant. Please be an agent's agent, because I had some that were just incredibly, just on the border of being rude, being the know-it-all, being the one. And honestly, when I gave the 29 things to my seller, I made note of the ones that were difficult, because if they're difficult in the beginning, how's that transaction going to go throughout? Doesn't mean it isn't going to close. Doesn't mean that at all. It just means that if you've got 29 offers, do you really have to pick the most difficult person to work with if all terms are the same? Okay, so before and when submitting an offer, always fill out the listing agent information on the contract. What I mean by that, purchase and sales agreement. You know your buyer's name, you know your name, you filled all of it out, but be courteous and put the listing agent information. Really, the only thing you may not know, and you won't know unless you know them, is what board they're in. So if, you leave that blank, but yesterday when I got them, I thought, oh, there's a nice agent. Oh, there's a nice agent. Oh, this one's not so good. So again, you're just doing a little bit more to get better results. I was pleasantly surprised. I had these listings, or I had these offers, create a cover letter outlining the important terms of the contract, including the lender's name, an email address, and a telephone number for which they can contact them. It's like kind of just the cheat sheet, so that they can go, wow, look how organized they are. So you can have a template that you keep, that you've created, and start doing that.
Michelle, question?
Yeah.
On the cover letter, there was some class, and it may have been one that Sherry taught, where agents used to try to build up the clients saying it's a family, I got kids, and then they said that that might be open to legal action.
Okay. Well,
So can you comment? I mean,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Regina. Here's what we used to call them love letters. And at one point I was doing them too years ago. Yes, some agents may read it, but when we had 29 yesterday, the love letters I received, I did not share with the seller when we started. I got a video of a family saying, this is what we're going to do with the house. We love the house. I did not share the video with the seller, the owner. I got I got it all. I'd never seen anything quite like it. Now, after I had the conversation, but again, I'm telling you how I do business. I don't know how those other listing agents are doing business, but I said, is this a business transaction for you, or do you want it to be an emotional transaction? Do you not care about the money, but just the emotional part of it, or do you want it? I mean, so we've had this conversation so that we are consistent in how we're presenting that contract. So love letters, you know, I mean, if the cover letter is different than the love letter was prepared by the buyer. The cover letter, if it has it in there, quite frankly, I would have redacted it, because I'm the one looking at the cover letter. It's not a contract. So if I were going to provide it to the seller, I would have redacted that information. Does that help you?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Who can read this word? Just this word.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Include the pre-approval letter and make sure you have all exhibits needed. Seller disclosure, the community association disclosure, financing. Just make sure you have everything, because for a listing agent that does this a lot, then they want kind of the kind of show and go. They don't want to come back to you and go, oh, by the way, we've taken your offer over 29, but I didn't see that you did the lead-based paint. First of all, they can't do that. I didn't see that you did the CAD, that's community association disclosure. So that's why I want you all to have prepared your file ahead of time. It makes it much easier. Once you've got it all ready, review it before. Yesterday, I got one that they sent everything. It was pretty sloppy as far as the contract, but guess who didn't sign it?
A special message.
Uh-oh, somebody needs to mute. Okay. Guess who didn't sign the contract?
Buyers?
The buyer.
The buyers and the agent. Nobody sold it to me. So that just told me they were going to wing it. We don't really even know if their buyer knew that they were submitting the offer. Crazy. So guess what? That one didn't even get discussed. End of discussion. I mean, just done.
Wow.
And here again, please review the documents for accuracy and signatures. If you do not, write this down, if you do not know how to complete a lead-based paint exhibit, you better know, because there were about 7 fairly competitive bids that didn't, and we threw them out. Now, when I'm saying we, I did not. My seller did, because I told them they didn't complete this correctly. So it could have been the best offer in the block, but I'll show you why that this is important. Okay. Your offers need to be a perfect contract. Confirm that your offer has been received. I'm telling you, please please, please, please know your contracts. If you think the sexy thing about real estate is staging, and that's where you're going to put your emphasis on, then be a listing agent that knows their contracts. But that's the fun part. Know your contracts. You'll hear me say this time and time again. Okay, what do you do while you're waiting? Let's say you've submitted the offer. What do you do? Everybody's on pins and needles. Go ahead and put the listing agent's name, phone number, and email in your phone contacts so that if you see Michelle Byers calling you, and I'm the listing agent, not one of the people, not a broker, that you know to pick up that phone, because we've gotten kind of programmed. If we don't know who it is calling, we let it go into voicemail. So know who's calling you. Also, you better have on your voicemail. Hello, this is Michelle Byers with Keller Williams Atlanta North. Thanks for calling. I'm sorry I missed it. They need to know who you are, because if they're calling you and they just get what if they misdialed and they think they left you a message? Problem. I also had yesterday a contract that I compiled everyone on a spreadsheet, and I made in my contacts the list of people so that I could send an email out saying, here's what's happening. Here's when we're cutting it off. Here's when we're going to meet with the seller. Here's what you should expect, just as a courtesy. I actually had an agent that submitted their offer with their wrong email address. So it bounced back to me. Do you think I'm going to take the time to look up their email address to let them know that so that they can correct it? No, not at all. So just be very careful with that. Notify your client that you've submitted everything and know how to reach them. What if they this is a Friday afternoon and they say, we're going to Acapulco for the weekend, we're not going to be available? That could be an issue. Say, well, okay, could you watch your tabs? Just know how to get them. A few people lost out yesterday because they couldn't get their clients to respond quick enough. And in this case, it had to do with the lead-based paint disclosure, because we weren't going to take something that was wrong. And then you have to be patient and don't drive the listing agent crazy. Okay, we're getting toward the end, so then we'll open it up for questions. We've got about 10 more minutes, so I'm going to go through this quickly. Why do some contracts win and some don't or do not? Agents don't know their contract. Gosh darn. How many times do I have to tell people to read their contracts? The kindest thing you can do if you want to be a successful real estate agent is simply to know your contracts. There is a book, I don't think you're going to be able to tell it, that I don't even think you can see this. Anyway, it's called The Red Book, and it's put out by Seth Weisman, who wrote the Georgia Real Estate Contract. It is a tedious book, but I used to pick it up as a new agent and I would read it to learn about certain contracts I knew I was going to use periodically or most likely. You can't get too smart in real estate because if you know the contracts, then you know how to negotiate your contracts. If you don't, then go sell widgets somewhere, honest to goodness, because if you execute a contract and the other person is just as unknowledgeable about it, and it creates a terrible harm or disservice to clients, you could end up in front of the Georgia Real Estate Commission because you're practicing something that you're not supposed to be practicing because you didn't know. I know that sounds hard, but that is the very first thing. If you, as new agents, for anybody that's new, have not printed the contracts up and read them, you better do it. If the seasoned agents haven't printed the contracts up or attended contracts class, you better do it because everything changed. You know what caught people this time is the lead-based paint changed. They did not know, and clearly they weren't prepared to do it. Then sloppy work, not completed properly, blanks where information should be, missing documents, missing signatures. We talked about that. No pre-approval letter. Incorrect information. I said about the email address of buyer's agent. The terms, types of financing, you need to understand the limitations. So if you're going in and you're offering an FHA, understand FHA so you can have really good conversation. That may not be a limitation to getting the contract, but how many of you know that the FHA, and I think I said it earlier, that the FHA and VA appraiser doesn't have to go out there until the very last day. So if that contract is to run for 30 days, did they potentially just take their home off the market for 30 days and not know if this is going to close? So if I were out there competing and my borrower couldn't do anything but FHA, I think what I would do is I would talk with the loan officer and I would say, you know what, I want you to reach out, or I want you to write a letter that's saying they are going FHA, but they will not be waiting until after due diligence to order the appraisal. It will be ordered from the time that they can order it. So then a seasoned agent is going to understand that. They're going to go, okay, well, they get it. And now I get it. So maybe this isn't a bad offer. Does that make sense to y'all? Okay, you're quiet today.
Yes.
Okay. Don't be a difficult agent. Be an agent's agent and make it easier for them. We talked about that. And last but not least, before we kind of start wrapping this up, don't be afraid of submitting a backup. Do you know how many contracts don't make it through the gate the first go around? I don't know. I mean, we see a lot of, I mean, I just asked you a question. I don't even know the answer. But I do see a lot of terminations. Terminations because of the, the due diligence period. And what's better than a due diligence when you're making an offer? Anybody know?
Right to request repairs.
Right to request repairs. That means they're not walking away unless they cannot get an agreement on the right to repairs. Now, right to repairs does not include, I don't like the ugly shag carpet, I want you to replace it. Right to repairs really has to do with health and safety issues or things that are recalled, such as Louisiana Pacific siding, polybutylene pipes, things like that. But what that tells me is this borrower is serious. It's not a looky-loo, it's a real one. The one that we took yesterday, I'll tell you more about it, but they did right to repairs with 0 days of due diligence. They did 0 days of financing contingency because they already had an approval.
Michelle,
now, we
may I
didn't
ask
do
a
0
question?
days of appraisal. Yeah. Okay.
Michelle?
Yes.
Would you please clarify on the right to repair? If the due diligence has ended and the right to repair is submitted, that if it's if it's cosmetic, it's not health or security, or safety, then they cannot the buyer cannot back out of the contract. Is that correct?
Well, you've kind of taken two things and blended it into one.
Okay, thank you.
Usually you don't have a due diligence period if you do right to repair. Although, with that said, I saw one contract yesterday that had a 2-day due diligence and a 10-day right to repair. So learn the difference between the two on right to repair. All you need to do and everybody needs to do this, is to print that document up and read it. And if you don't understand it, please ask Sherry or please ask me. Okay? Good.
Can I ask a quick question?
Uh-huh.
I was working with a buyer and we were the backup offer with that same situation.
Mhm.
And of course, being the backup offer, we were still looking at other houses. It was, it made us all very nervous because of, once that main offer had gone through, they would have immediately become the first offer. And there was no way out of it.
Okay, well, that's going to be kind of a side conversation we need to have on this, because what I would tell you, let me go back and maybe this will answer. Don't be afraid of submitting a backup offer. If you read your document, it will say that if it hasn't become a primary by a certain date, they can exit. If it hasn't become a primary and you're still waiting and you find something else, then you can withdraw the offer. You have to be careful about having multiple things running, because you could, now, I mean, if you've got to do diligence, it does. So that's a conversation in itself. So if you are not clear, get with me on that, okay? Clear as mud, right? Exactly. All right. See this on the screen where it says contracts for 2021 changes to the GAR form. If you have not attended this class or a class about the changes, you need to do so. This one gives you CE credit. We had one last week that Thomas and Brown did. That was an amazing class. Every time you can learn something more about your contract, the better off you're going to be, because that way you're in a better position to help your client. So if you see this, I think Sherry or Rispy sent it out. If you haven't taken one, you need to, okay? So I'm gonna, before I show you the questions, or we ask any questions, because we're really at 12 o'clock. If you need to go, I understand. I do want to show you something here that this is why I decided to do this class. Let me go to my desktop, and I want to show to you what my spreadsheet looked like. I think this is it, what I had to do. Okay, here's my offers. Remember, I said, so I'm going to say, please don't concentrate on the names over here, but I had the spreadsheet. I wanted to know price, escalation. Was there an escalation? Was there seller contributions, earnest money, due diligence, holder of earnest money, type of financing, days of appraisal, special steps, considerations. And what means considerations? I put lead-based paint missing. Remember when I said that there were some things that I've just kind of lead-based paint wrong? This one, they sent a picture of a buyer, lead-based paint not correct, no legal. So for me, that kind of kept everything in order so that I knew. And I started to do time limitation of our offer. Quite frankly, we had so many, I sent the email out and said, I don't care what you put on that time limitation. If you still want to be in the running, this is when we meet. So anyway, if you want a copy, a blank copy of that, come by and I'll print that out for you so that you can see what I considered. Now, could another agent have other considerations that does it? Sure. So, okay. Any questions or ahas? First, let's start with ahas, because was this helpful to you?
Yes. Yes.
Did you walk away with at least one nugget that you feel like you will be better prepared?
Yes.
Okay, good, good.
Definitely.
Okay, perfect. Any questions? No? That's scary, because I know I'm going to get those phone calls, at 9 at night when your hair is burning.
Hey, Michelle, do you mind sharing this deck with us?
No, I don't mind it at all. I'm happy to. Who? Oh, John Brown. Of course, John
Yeah.
Brown. Hello.
Thank you.
Okay.
Michelle,
Okay.
I'd like that also, please.
Okay, I'll send it to you in a PDF form.
Thank you.
So if you will do this for me, if I'm so sorry because I can only see so many faces at one time. If you want it, send me an email at Byers, BYERS .homes, HOMES @gmail. That way, all I have to do is say, here you go, and I'll attach it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? You have been amazing. What a great way to start my Monday with you all. All right. Okay, well, listen, thank you for your time. And then, you know, of course, Sherry is the master of contracts. I'm just kind of the master in behind her. And so we just want to see that you are the winning offer. And let me just share with you, how many people think that because you're newer, if you are newer, that you will always lose out to a seasoned agent?
No, I don't think that at all.
Good. Okay, because the gentleman
No.
whose contract was received was, this is the final parting note. He's been in the business for 4 months, but I would have never known it.
Wow.
Ever, because he was so incredibly, everything that I told you, he did. Everything.
Was he KW?
He's KW. Oh, I was so proud of him. And I told him, and I did not let the KW affect what the seller, because I didn't even tell the seller that information. That's not fair. Now, do other people do it a different way? No, I'm the rule follower. But the other thing is there was the question on cash always wins. Absolutely not. We had 3 cash offers. They were lower than the list price. We threw them out because they were investors, and investors want to be able to assign contracts. That gets different. Then there were people with crazy escalation clauses. Well, unless they had the money to fund the difference, did we consider them? No. So part of this whole thing, which I think is fascinating and fun, is thinking through and understanding why something worked and why it didn't. And do not ever be afraid of reaching back out to a listing agent and just saying, oh, I was so disappointed. They're not going to tell you what the terms were because it hadn't closed yet. But you could say, was there anything I could have done differently to have put my buyer in a better position? They may or may not answer you. I took the time to talk to them. I said, clearly you could, I did tell one person, I said, clearly you could be at KW getting better training because your contract was difficult. So I know. I mean, I used it as a recruiting, but it was honest. It was totally
Michelle, can I go through a scenario I had recently?
Well, is it something that we need to talk offline?
It's about similar contracts thing.
Okay, all right.
Just quickly. So I have an FHA, a client with FHA, and they didn't win the offer, and the agent said it's because they went with their cash buyer. Then a week later, I still saw it showing as available. So I contacted the agent, and she said the client had gone with the cash buyer who couldn't deliver. Then they went with a conventional, and they couldn't agree on dates. And she said it didn't appraise for what they were listing it for, but the seller still wanted anyone to come in with a higher offer, like 3,000 above what the listing price is, and 5,000 in total above what it appraised for. Is that normal?
Oh no. Well, is it normal? It could be. What would that, someone else speak up, what would that give you an indication on how if the seller took your transaction, how easy they would be to work with if that scenario came up? it tells me, and I'll just quickly, tells me that the seller's being unrealistic. So,
Okay.
now, could they?
That's what I
have a-
thought.
Yeah, could they have a change of heart after they've had 2 contracts that fell through? And, ask the agent, what's their motivation to sell? I mean, there's a lot of things, it goes into the psychology. You can also look in Realist and see when they bought it, what they paid for it, how much of a mortgage, if any, that they're holding. So it gives you a better insight of what you are going to be potentially up against. The more questions you ask, or the more you explore, the better off you're going to be. Did that answer your question, Grace?
Thank you. Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else?
How long did it take you to make that spreadsheet of all those offers?
I got up at 5 o'clock yesterday morning. I went to the grocery store at 11:30, got something to eat, started again at 12:30, and met with the sellers at 4:30. I worked on it the entire time. So, now the good thing is I was the listing agent. I wasn't the one that was driving people around like crazy trying to get it. So listings are leverage. If you all go out and find yourself an affordable listing and it's marketed correctly based on the price and the condition, they're gold mines. They are gold mines. But you better, as a listing agent, be prepared to work like crazy. And I will tell you this, I always tell everybody that I teach or talk to, come prepared. How many of you are in Ignite know that on Wednesday you've got to come as though you're going to a buyer consultation or a listing?
Yes, that's what you
Okay.
said.
Okay. So every morning what I do is I get up, I take my shower, I put on my makeup, I get dressed, and off I go. I don't care if I have an appointment or not. I mean, I'm going to be in the office, but even on Saturday and Sunday, I do it. That is just my habit. Yesterday, here's what happened. I got up, I took a shower, I got dressed, worked on some things, went to the grocery store, worked on it again, looked at my watch, thought, oh, I got to go. I was driving to the appointment. I had never put a stick of makeup on, and it was a frightening thing. So the big joke was on me. I didn't do what I always said I did. Did that ruin that? No, because she was thrilled that she had 29, but do you get my point? Just get in the habit. We get to the point where we get, and you don't want to get lazy just because we're doing Zooms and things like that. Be ready to run, because you never know when you got to go out that door. Okay, that was really off topic, but okay. Any other questions?
Got to run.
Okay. All right. Well, for
Thank
those,
you.
you're welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thanks, Michelle.
welcome.
No, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Good to see
Michelle.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you all.
Thank you.
For my other, do we have Ignite today? I didn't even look yet. I think we do. Yes, we do. Okay. So I got to get ready for that. Thank you all again. Bye.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, you're welcome. And then email me if you want that stack. I'll be glad to send it to you.
Definitely.
Okay. Bye.